Northern Ireland elected a new regional parliament in early May. But why is there still no government today? The Good Friday 1998 Belfast Agreement, which brought relative peace to the province, stipulates that the two strongest parties, the Unionist and the Republicans, must appoint the First Minister and the Deputy with equal rights. These are currently the so-called Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, and Sinn Féin, the former political wing of the now defunct Irish Republican Army, or IRA. If one of the two ministers resigns, the other is automatically out of a job as well. The DUP had already paralyzed government in February when its first minister resigned in protest on the Northern Ireland Protocol. Without the DUP, there is no government of Northern Ireland. What does the Northern Ireland Protocol say? Just for everyone who doesn't know yet. The protocol is part of the Brexit Treaty and was negotiated by the British government and the European Union. It regulates that Northern Ireland, the North, which is the only part of the United Kingdom that has a land border with the EU, effectively remains part of the EU internal market and must be subject to EU customs rules. This is because of fears that a hard border between the North and the rest of Ireland would reignite violent conflict. Although the protocol avoided such a hard border, there is now a customs border between the North and Great Britain instead, so that British goods, especially chilled meat and chilled meat products, cannot enter Northern Ireland and from there into the EU unchecked. This regulation initially triggered a so-called sausage war because British bangers were no longer allowed to end up on Northern Irish breakfast plates. At least the sausage dispute has now been settled, so that Northern Irish people can once again enjoy the, dubious pleasure of British sausages. If it comes with brown sauce, I'm completely out. Why do Northern Ireland Unionists oppose this scheme? The sausages are not enough for the Unionists. They see a split in the United Kingdom in the protocol over the Irish Sea border. By approving the Northern Ireland Protocol, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has allowed a rule that his predecessor Theresa May said no to. And she said no British Prime Minister could ever approve this. The DUP feels they have been duped by the British government. They were the only party in Northern Ireland to campaign for Brexit, hoping that they would be rewarded with particularly close ties to the motherland. Well, they were the only stupid ones then. The Unionists now complain that the protocol violates the Union Acts of 1800, with which the British government annexed the neighbouring island. That is why the regional parliament will be blocked until the hated protocol is off the table. Why is the issue of Northern Ireland regional parliament so complicated in the first place? The regional parliament consists of 90 members who are elected by proportional representation, which is much more democratic than the general election in the UK. It was created by the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, which was intended to end the 30-year conflict in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland government has since been a forced coalition made up of all parties holding at least 9 seats. It thus follows the principle of concordance. That means the intention to involve as many interest groups as possible in politics. All MSPs must also identify themselves as unionist, nationalist, or other. For example, the non-denominational and Liberal Alliance Party falls under other. It can declare itself unionist or nationalist before each vote, depending on where majority is needed. Why is the Northern Ireland Protocol topic hot again now? The British government intends to introduce a bill in the House of Commons that is intended to overturn parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol unilaterally. That would not so much be possible under Article 16 of the Brexit Treaty, because that only allows each side to terminate parts of the contract if severe economic, social, or environmental difficulties threaten. But there are a lot of conditions for that. The article is considered a last resort when all negotiations have failed. However, it's doubtful whether the project will go so smoothly. The London House of Lords could throw a spanner in the works for the government. If the Lords reject the bill, it cannot be resubmitted for 1 year. But how will Brussels react if the protocol is unilaterally suspended by the British government? The EU says renegotiating the Northern Ireland Protocol is out of the question, understandably. They will react to the British measures with all available means, they say. However, as a compromise, the EU is offering to reduce food checks by 80% and relax rules for refrigerated goods. In return, additional securities were required to prevent goods from Northern Ireland from entering the Irish Republic. The Johnson government rejects the compromise proposals, and they never proposed anything compromisable themselves. EU member states appear to have agreed to counter any British action with an equivalent countermeasure. If London suspends the protocol and thus violates an international agreement, which is international law, there is even a risk of a trade war. But what is next now? If no agreement can be reached within 6 months, new elections would theoretically have to be called in Northern Ireland, which would probably not change anything about the constellation in the Northern Irish Parliament. As is so often the case, a formulation will probably be agreed at the last minute that all sides can claim as a victory. However, a lot can still happen before then. For example, July is the peak of the marching season in Northern Ireland, with numerous parades organized by the radical Protestants of the Orange Order. There are up to 3,000 of these parades a year. It is to be feared that this will lead to violent protest against the protocol. And what about an Irish reunification? In the elections at the beginning of May, Sinn Féin came out on top and stressed that it wanted to put the question of reunification with Ireland back on the agenda. According to the Belfast Agreement, however, such a referendum is at the discretion of the British Prime Minister. No, it's not. It's the British Minister for Northern Ireland. It's Brendan Lewis, not Johnson. If he thinks a majority would vote for reunification, he can call a referendum. But it's not that far yet. The Unionists still have a majority. Although it's fragmented, there is an agreement on the question of belongings to the United Kingdom. Rather, the Unionists fear that the Northern Ireland Protocol will create an all-Ireland economy, which is a first step towards reunification. Many areas such as tourism, the water and energy sectors are already organized for the whole of Ireland. The question of financing is also important. It is unclear whether Ireland could afford reunification at all. London currently sends nearly £10 billion to Northern Ireland every year. The Dublin government would then have to compensate for this loss. That's what skeptics claim, but they always forget the EU at that part, by the way. However, at least for the largest budget item, the pensions, London would continue to pay as Irish pensioners have paid into the British pension system. Despite all the imponderables, at least one thing is certain. The British government would not put any obstacles in the way of reunification, because that way they would have handed over the problems with the unloved province to Dublin. And yes, that wouldn't be easy, but for the people who are thinking clearly, I can only wish that we will all see that day. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.